Perfect. And I will get my screen being shared, perhaps. Share screen. Does that work?
Yep.
Awesome. Okay. Well, I'll do a little introductory spiel here and hand it over to Jordan, and we'll go through the material. But for those who are watching this live or later on YouTube, welcome to the third of 3 sessions that Smoky Lake County has hosted. Open houses, I guess I should call them, not sessions. Because we're currently going through a public participation opportunity for a couple of issues. The first open house that we did was centered around possibly allowing urban chickens in the hamlet setting. The second one dealt with trying to problem solve around how recreational vehicles are handled at some of our lake lots. And this evening, the third and last and arguably best session is centered all around whether or not the county proceeds with pursuing dark sky designation status. And so we're very excited to have a conversation around that. Just by way of an agenda, we'll start with some introductions because we do have a guest. We'll cover a little bit why Smoky Lake County is potentially interested in going down this path. We'll talk about the surveys, which are still open till to the end of the week, and what some of the next steps could entail once the What We Heard report from each of the 3 online surveys and 3 open houses have been pulled together. And then if there are any questions, we'll try to answer some of those. And of course, if anybody's watching this later and you come up with a question that you want to put to us, we'll provide our contact information at the end of the presentation. So with that, I will turn it over to Jordan to introduce himself, and we'll do a roundtable of introductions.
Thanks, Kyle. So my name is Jordan Rugg. I'm the manager of planning and development here for Smoky Lake County. And as Kyle mentioned, this is the final open house in a series that we've been running this past week and a half regarding some planning and development related changes and some proposed changes that have come about through our recent adoption of the Victoria District Economic Development Strategy. So maybe I'll get Kyle to well, I guess, should I introduce, give Geoff an opportunity to introduce himself first, I guess? So Geoff, I'll turn it over to you.
Hi, my name is Geoff Robertson. I am the current Light Pollution Abatement Committee head and also past president of the Edmonton Center of the Royal Astronomical Society of Canada. The sign says Astrological Society, and
I apologize.
No, that's okay. It's a common mistake. I always say astrology is so much Taurus excrement. So, yeah, so that's who I am, and I'm happy to participate.
Well, perfect. Thank you, Geoff, and we appreciate you being here with us this evening. And it's an exciting topic, so let's dive into it. We'll get Kyle to advance the slide here. So why are we here? Well, the reason why we've sort of embarked on investigating the possibility of establishing a dark sky preserve is a way of enhancing the lifestyles that we experience out here in Smoky Lake County. Obviously, it's a rural area and far enough away from most of the sources of light pollution. So we thought it was kind of a good complementary piece to some of the economic development work that we're doing. But also just highlighting some of the things that make us as a rural region different than the city, and a way of trying to attract visitors and tourists and new residents to our neck of the woods as well. We looked at a couple of different case studies as part of this investigation, and there's actually one that's pretty close to us here in Bon Accord. They were successful a number of years ago with their pursuance of a dark sky community, and they actually became Canada's first international dark sky community, as the slide shows. And it was a great process for them. They were very successful. They had a couple of different aspects that they hope to achieve through that designation, and the first was community development. And again, Smoky Lake County is looking at this type of designation as well, with the same vision in mind, as a way of promoting our community, developing our community, attracting new residents to the area, and providing those opportunities for recreation and for tourism. So tied to that, obviously, is the promotion, and we've got a lot of different irons in the fire right now in terms of our strategies to promote our region. The economic development strategy that we've partnered with the town of Smoky Lake, as well as the Métis Nation of Alberta, on some of the great things that are happening down at Métis Crossing and throughout the Victoria District, that we hope to spread out to the larger community as whole. And the third thing that Bon Accord got out of their designation was increased health and wellness benefits. People really seem to enjoy looking up into the night sky and relaxing and just enjoying some of the things that they don't get a chance to be a part of when they're in the city. I know that when I was a kid, and even to this day, nothing better than going out camping somewhere away from the city and experiencing all that the dark sky has to offer. So we didn't have to go very far to find a community that's made this program work. They've been able to bring in some policies that have enabled them to reduce their light pollution and obviously attain the designation as a international dark sky community. So the county hopes to sort of model our approach on theirs, and we use theirs to inform our strategy as we're moving forward. Maybe I'll turn it back over to Kyle to give you a little bit more information on the case study, and then we'll go from there.
You're
I
muted.
see I'm muted. That's better. Here I was just launching into a speech. Let me start. Okay, thank you, Jordan. I'm thrown off my rhythm here. Basically, a process like this, as a matter of public policy, would require the county to explore adopting new policy and potentially amendments to the land use bylaw. And so here we'll take a high level look at the aspects of that Bon Accord accomplished in 2017 was specifically when that designation was completed. And I think it's important to stress at this point that Smoky Lake County is very much in the early days of this process if it were to move forward. So part of the rationale behind why we're doing this listening exercise is to look at what has been working well for Bon Accord, but also to come up with a specific to Smoky Lake model. And so what that means is consideration whether we put forward, a portion of the county or the entire county, perhaps beginning somewhere along the Victoria District, for example, would certainly seem to make some sense as far as bringing in regulation that can then be tested, and if it's quite successful and popular, perhaps expanded in the future. But basically, there are considerations to be made about how this would be implemented. And so from our perspective, Smoky Lake County is still very much in the investigatory learning phase. And certainly nothing has been predetermined as far as any of this goes. So what is important to be mindful of is, for example, the treatment of different light zoning, for example. So the tolerances that would be permitted in different areas, that gets broken down into several categories and certain measurable volumes of light. As well, this isn't about going around to all the farmyards and compelling people to extinguish their yard lights. It's very much more about education rather than enforcement. I mean, there certainly could end up being aspects of enforcement, but much more so, I think it's fair to say that a program such as this is most successful when households and folks have access to the information and they can make smart light management decisions for themselves. And so what that looks like is, lights on a timer, shielding around certain lights that not only ends up actually doing a better job of illuminating, but is also healthier for humans and flora and fauna, actually is stronger for crime prevention. And I think Geoff will perhaps touch on that a little later in some of his slides as well, is that in the planning world, we have what's called crime prevention through environmental design, or CPTED. And just because there is a light doesn't mean that it's doing a good job of illuminating what you want it to. And so that's, I think, part of the value in having a resource like this designation, to provide that information to people so that they can be making those smart decisions themselves. And then as well, under bullet point number 3 here, I pulled these bullet points right from some of the Bon Accord material, in that some lighting is exempted. And so there's a discussion around what's eligible for exemption and what makes sense for us. I can tell you that at this stage, we've received several dozen responses to the survey, and I'm really keen to have that What We Heard report come together and move forward to council to begin to dig in what sorts of things people are putting forward as considerations or thoughts. Basically, as we mentioned earlier, it's a really quick survey. Again, that we're high level and these are early days. So it asks general questions about what people would like to see prioritized. That's open until the end of this week. And I really encourage you, if you haven't already had a chance, to complete that and get those comments into us. If I can, I'll just turn it over back to Jordan very briefly. This is the county portion is going to come to a close here in a moment, and then we'll turn it over to Geoff to offer a few comments also. But perhaps, Jordan, you can just talk about a little bit about, if a process like this were to move forward, some of the requirements and stipulations that for additional engagement well beyond what we're doing here. This is very much at the front end.
Yes, thanks, Kyle. I'd be more than happy to explain the process. So as the timeline suggests there, the county adopted its current land use bylaw, number 1272-14, back in December of 2014. And since January 2015 up until recently, January of this year, I guess, 9 amendments had been made to that land use bylaw. None of them had anything to do with dark skies, but basically, we wanted to show that this document is always available to be tweaked, and it would follow, a similar process as we move along. So currently, we've been doing this round of open houses. As Kyle just mentioned, we've got the survey that's still available for another couple of days. So if you haven't done it yet, please do. And we're planning on taking that feedback that we've received from the survey, the open house this evening, as well as other conversations or emails or things like that we've received, and consolidating all of that information, which will actually be brought forward to a committee of the whole meeting, which is going to take place on July 28th. And then following that committee meeting, we're expecting to get direction from the committee, which is made up of our council here in Smoky Lake, in order to give us some direction in terms of what they would like to see with respect to a land use bylaw amendment. So if we are given direction to move forward with land use bylaw amendments, an additional round of public consultation would occur, because any amendments that is contemplated to the land use bylaw must first have a public hearing in respect of that amendment before any changes can be adopted. So if you're interested in continuing to participate as we move forward in the process, there will be additional opportunities for you to do so. And as Kyle mentioned earlier as well, there's no guarantee that council is going to decide to move forward with the Dark Skies Preserve, depending on what we hear from the survey and from the comments that we received tonight and through other means. council might decide that they don't want to take any further action on this item, and therefore no changes would be contemplated to the land use bylaw. So we haven't made up our mind yet. That's why we're doing these series of open houses to obtain that public feedback. Once we've consolidated that all, we'll bring it to council and see what they have to say, and that will inform our decision as we move forward. I guess I'll turn it back over to Kyle, and maybe we'll leave the questions until the end after Geoff's been able to have an opportunity to do his presentation. How about that?
Yeah, I tend to agree. So we'll put that up again in the future. But as I understand it, Geoff, you had a couple slides that you'd like to share and do a little bit of a brief presentation also.
Yeah, I will try and keep this as brief as I can here.
I think your comments are much more interesting and insightful than the county's comments so far. So.
Well, I don't know about that. Okay, here we go. Come on. Oh, you know what? I forgot to do something here. Hang on. I have to. Yes, there is one sound file. Okay. 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 As I said earlier, my name is Geoff Robertson. I'm with the Royal Astronomical Society of Canada, Edmonton Centre. I am the newly appointed Light Pollution Abatement Committee head, and so this is kind of my job in relationship to dark sky preserves and such. We were approached in the spring of this year about the possibility of having a dark sky preserve put in Smoky Lake County around Métis Crossing. The RASC National does have a dark sky preserve certification program. There's also another organization based out of the United States, the IDA, or International Dark Sky Association, who have a very similar program, and their criteria is almost identical to ours. At this time, I do not know what the size of the proposed site will be. I recommended you start with a small area, and if you want to expand it later, go for it rather than try to encompass the whole county, but that's really up to you people. Okay, so we'll just answer a few basic questions, which I saw were already in Kyle's presentation, but we'll go for it. What is a dark sky preserve? And dark sky preserves are protected areas that make special commitment to protect and preserve the night, reducing or eliminating light pollution in all forms. Many plants, wildlife, and insects rely on darkness to forage, breed, and navigate. So protecting the dark sky not only provides a magical experience for you, but it also protects ecosystems. In regard to Mother Nature, excessive light will, as it does to humans, it'll throw off the circadian rhythm of not only animals, but also plants. We evolved to have a day-night cycle, not this 24-hour daylight, which, well, certainly in the city, we're experiencing. Now, I have a little presentation that was put together by our national office about how we go about doing this. It's only about 5 minutes long, so I'll start that.
Hello, I'm Phil Groff, the Executive Director of the Royal Astronomical Society of Canada. One of our society's primary goals .
Oh, what happened? I lost the sound here.
Is to protect our night sky from light pollution. What do we mean by light pollution? Well, at night, light from artificial lighting on Earth is bounced back to us by the atmosphere. Light shining up and bouncing back from artificial lights like street lamps, billboards, outdoor arenas, and ski hills is often brighter than the stars themselves. That's why you can't see many stars in a city. A study published in Science Advances reveals that over 80% of the world's population lives in areas affected by light pollution, and for the US and Europe, that number is nearly 99%. About 1/3 of the world cannot see the Milky Way galaxy, our home in the universe. Why do we need dark skies? Well, humans have evolved over the years to live with light during the day and dark at night. Experiencing light at times when our body expects darkness can upset our daily sleep cycles and prevent us from getting proper rest. It disrupts our daily circadian rhythms. Disrupting those circadian rhythms can change many other aspects of our biology that help keep us healthy as well, including hormone release, eating habits, and body temperature. That's why sometimes you sleep better when you go camping. The secluded nature of many parks allows you to experience true darkness. And it's not just humans who rely on dark skies. Birds, turtles, seals, and many other animals use the night sky and stars to navigate. Dark skies also help us connect to something bigger than ourselves. The first time you visit a truly dark site and see all the stars you normally can't see at home, perhaps the Milky Way, perhaps some deep sky objects, and you realize the light from those stars often left thousands of years ago, that you're truly looking into the past of the universe, you start to experience the awe and wonder that has always drawn astronomers to contemplate ourselves and our place in the cosmos. So how can you tell how light polluted your skies are? The Bortle scale is used by astronomers to quantify how dark the sky is. Bortle 9 is the most light polluted sky possible. Think of trying to see the stars from the Las Vegas Strip or the streets of downtown Toronto. You can only see the moon, maybe some of the planets and the brightest stars. As we turn down the light pollution, you can begin to see more and more stars, constellations, the Milky Way, and even deep sky objects like the Andromeda Galaxy. Bortle 1 or 2 skies are the kind of skies you can see at dark sky locations. Using this Globe at Night website and the method on it, you can become a citizen scientist. Based on how many stars you can see in Orion or another seasonal constellation, you can estimate how light polluted your skies are. The data you collect is used to see how light pollution has changed over time. So you want to get out and see the Milky Way, right? You can use this website to find somewhere with dark skies near you. You can see where the biggest sources of light pollution are. If you're in a big city like Toronto and aren't able to leave, try heading somewhere like Cherry Beach or the shores of Lake Ontario. That way, facing south, you'll be looking away from all the light pollution from the city. And of course, we recommend visiting one of the Royal Astronomical Society of Canada's dark sky preserves. These sites have made changes to their lighting in order to protect your view of the night sky. Visit rasc.ca or skynews.ca for a full list of dark sky sites and to learn more about how you can help preserve our night sky.
Okay. All right. What's required for a dark sky preserve designation? Demonstrating good nighttime lighting practices, adhering to the Canadian guidelines for outdoor lighting, or CGOL, and I've sent Kyle and Jordan copies of that, and providing outreach aimed at the general public and neighboring municipalities. Now, this is most important. Local sponsorship or someone to take ownership of this is required to document the proposed site, assist managers, staff, et cetera, et cetera. If you don't have local buy-in, it's just not going to work. And reading further down, additional spin-off is better public and political understanding of the problems of light pollution and the benefits in its reduction, and the lasting legacy is perhaps the most important benefit of the program. Now, there's also some economic arguments, but I'm not going to get into these right now. Now, here's a few pictures in that little video. I've just got some screenshots of those here. So this is a light pollution map of North America. So, you can obviously see the outline of the eastern seaboard down to Florida. This is us over here, Edmonton, Red Deer, Calgary. And close up, Edmonton, Red Deer, Calgary. You guys would be about here, I guess, in the green, somewhere in the blue. Not the best, but I mean, it's a lot better than in the center of Edmonton, that's for sure. Certainly in the green area and definitely in the blue area, you would be able to see the Milky Way. The northern lights wouldn't be washed out like they are in the city unless they're extremely bright. Also, seasonal meteor showers like the Perseids, which is coming up next month. In the city where I live, you might see 10 an hour, but away from the city lights, you can see 60, 70 an hour for the Perseids. For the Leonids, which happens in November, providing it's not storming or cloudy, sometimes you can see up to 80 to 100 an hour. I mean, back at, I think it was 1999, I witnessed a Leonid meteor storm where there were so many meteors, I couldn't count them. It was thousands an hour. And that event happens somebody's phoning, every 36 years. This is the, hang on a second, oh, somebody got that, good. Okay, this is Edmonton's light dome from 150 kilometers away, which is basically, Edmonton's light dome from Red Deer. So the light dome from the city is going to extend into your area, but position it so it's behind you in the west, and you can have good views to the east, north, and south. Now, I saw this picture in Kyle's presentation, but I'll go with it here. On August 14th, 2003, there was a massive blackout along the eastern seaboard of the United States and into southern Ontario, and knocked out all the lights. It originated in the States. Quebec was unaffected because they had hardened their system after the ice storm in, I think, 97. So that they weren't affected. But anyway, this is a picture taken from suburban Toronto by Terence Dickinson, who was the one-time editor of Sky News magazine. The night the lights went out, and you can see clearly the Milky Way and several stars. People were actually phoning the police that night, wondering what this band of light in the sky was, because many, many people had never seen it. This is the same picture taken from the same location the next night when the lights came back on, and all of that is gone. The picture on the right is what you would expect in a dark sky preserve, or any area where, well, not in any area away from city lights where the sky is dark. Now, we talk about responsible lighting, and here we have some samples of unacceptable lighting, and basically these are lights that send the light sideways or up. It's not shielded. It's sending the light in addition to the ground where you want it. It's sending it out every which way. And it doesn't matter whether they're incandescent bulbs or sodium lights or LED lights. If they're unshielded and not dark sky friendly, they're not the proper lighting that you need in a dark sky preserve. This is the type of lighting you want. You want them fully shielded. You want them sending the light down onto the ground where it's needed, not up in the sky. Now, Edmonton has a light pollution abatement policy, and they went around switching a number of lights, including the ones in my neighborhood, from the old mercury vapor lights, or sodium lights, I should say, to LED lights. And they are fairly well shielded. They're not fully shielded. There is a bit of light trespass off to the side, but I remember when the old lights were on, I could easily make out anything that, you know, my kids threw up on the roof. I could see all the leaves in the trees. Now with these new lights, I can't see what's on my roof. And the trees are not lit up the way they used to be. And my backyard is an awful lot darker. The only bad thing about these LED lights they put in, they're the wrong color temperature. They're too far to the blue scale of the color temperature chart. So these are the kind of lights you would want in a dark sky preserve. Now, I know in rural areas, crime is a big issue. And I talked to my predecessors and also some other people familiar with light pollution abatement. And they told me a few stories, and I have a story of my own also. One fellow was talking about vandalism at a school in town here. And the school was well lit up, you know, had lights all the way around it, but several times a year, the school will be vandalized, mostly with graffiti. And so someone suggested, why don't you turn the lights off? And so they did, and the vandalism went away, simply because the vandals doing the graffiti couldn't see what they were doing anymore. So that helped that. And another fella told me about a neighbor he had, because he has an acreage out in the country, and he was complaining about people coming on his property at night, driving around and you know, just making general nuisance of themselves. And he had this big yard light, and the people would come onto his property because they could see everything on his property. So he said, well, why don't you just turn the light out or put a motion sensor on so that when the light comes on, you'll know somebody's in your yard rather than have it on all night. So that is an idea. My story is, of course, I live in the city, but so, you know, if I need the police, you know, in an emergency, they'd be here in a few minutes. You know, it's not like out in the country. But anyway, my neighbor was complaining that people kept coming into his backyard and stealing stuff. He had a trailer taken and a skidoo and some tools and stuff that he had sitting in his backyard. He was kind of an outdoorsy and also a tradesman type of person, but he left a light on in his back. Well, two lights actually, one on his house, one on his garage, that lit up his backyard for the whole night. And so people would drive by in the alley and look over the fence and see all this stuff, and they would just come in and take it. Now, I have lights in my backyard, but they're all on motion sensors. So if somebody came into my backyard, the light would flick on, and I know, hey, there's something there that's not supposed to be there. I suggested, why don't you put it on motion sensors? I don't want to change anything. So that's just what I've got to say about that. Now, I don't know what the wording will be in your land use bylaw as far as writing or lighting would go. Certainly the RASC is not going to go around and hand out tickets and tell you to take your lights down. That's up to the county, and I don't imagine the county would want to do that either. I think gentle reminders and offering examples of how you can make the situation better would be better than, you know, out and out enforcement. So anyway, I will say thank you for your time, and if there's anything else anyone wants to ask me or anything to add, I'd be happy to hear from you.
Thank you very much, Geoff. That was really interesting, and I quite appreciated the use of multimedia, and because I think there is a concern that if a program like this were to move forward, it would be basically a power grab by the county, and that's not at all the case. Our intentionality here is to, you know, use what we already are, which is a relatively dark community, to draw in new visitors and draw in new residents and retain the residents that we do have, and achieve that community sustainability that that we require in order to have the services and benefits that that we expect and hope and enjoy currently. So, you know, on behalf of Smoky Lake County, thank you for being here and providing this early days presentation. We're hopefully looking forward to working with you as we move forward in understanding this undertaking. One question that I had for you, and we'll open it up generally to questions. I know we don't have a huge audience live on the line tonight, but if you do have questions, feel free to either drop them in the chat or you'll be given an opportunity to do so by unmuting. The first question that I had was, given your experience, what is typically the top, I guess, maybe concern or question? And I don't know how much you've dealt directly with homeowners or residents, but when a project like this comes forward, do you have a sense of primarily where their concerns lie, and perhaps if you can expand on that, how that gets addressed or looked at?
Well, most of my experience is dealing with the Beaver Hills Dark Sky Preserve, and there isn't a lot of housing in there. It's mostly it's Elk Island, it's Miquelon Lake Parks, the Ukrainian Village, Strathcona Wilderness Center. But from the people that dealt with the Jasper Dark Sky Preserve when that was getting implemented, mostly it was around safety and the idea that, oh, we're going to be wandering around in the dark with flashlights, and there'll be no street lights, and you know, cars will be running into one another and all this other stuff. But that's not what we're asking for. We're not asking you to wander around in the dark. We're looking for responsible lighting that directs the light down onto the ground and not up into the sky. And I said I wasn't going to talk about the economic implications, but if you're not wasting light shining it sideways and up into the sky, you can use a lower wattage directing it down toward the ground where the people are. So it's mostly a matter of safety. You know, in an urban area, like I say, I've never dealt with an urban area, but from some of the stuff I've read, some people are worried about, you know, people hiding in the shadows and such like that. But with proper lighting and that can be avoided, I would think.
Mm-hmm. I appreciate that, and certainly that's a reasonable question to have. So hopefully we'll be able to do an effective job of having that information available for people. I do know that we have had up for a number of months already a page actually on the smokylakecounty.ab.ca website that talks a little bit about light management. You can find it under the planning section. So that provides a little bit of information for people. I see, maybe Jordan, there's a comment here that came in. You don't have to name them, but perhaps we should read that into the record.
Yeah, so we received a comment and it reads, I just wanted to add that there is wonderful potential to increase seasonal tourism in the county, specifically bringing up those numbers in autumn, winter, and early spring, a positive economic benefit. And yeah, we certainly agree with that. I think those times of the year would provide a great opportunity to see that dark sky. Obviously, it gets darker earlier in the winter time and the autumn time. So certainly any opportunity that we can look to increase the tourism visits kind of in the off season. We know that Métis Crossing and things along the river are, you know, destinations that a lot of people flock to during the later spring and early summer. But certainly anything that can make us more of a year-round destination would also be something that we'd find a benefit to. So thank you for your comment. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. And I'm glad you brought that up, Jordan, because as we look to implement the Victoria District strategy, that's one of the things that's contemplated is how do we become a more effective year-round destination as opposed to just the peak season in the summertime. And so if you're providing these offerings in the shoulder and off season that are going to bring folks out and experience the environment, eat and enjoy and brew, I guess, if brewing is the right word, it's not, but brew local maple syrup on the snow and all of these sorts of offerings are what our friends at Travel Alberta, Explore Edmonton, Indigenous Tourism Alberta are talking about where the market is going and what people are looking for. And that goes for, our neighbors in Edmonton and also further afield, out of province, out of country. So as we're looking to a tourism recovery, this is possibly, if it's done well, one of the things that can help feed into that. And so it's really interesting that, this is already, I think, something that's out there in the community. Everybody knows now currently that we have dark skies. And I say everybody, but I mean, people who live here already know that we have dark skies. And so this is about providing opportunity for interpretive content, I think. When you have a designation around this, the designation in and of itself, can turn into something like, I guess, a bit of a badge, and then nothing comes of it. But I think if it's done properly, and I think if there's momentum, as there's the case in this, that's where the real magic happens, and there starts to be opportunity to really do better storytelling and ensure that storytelling is coming from a variety of perspectives that get that exposure that really create memories, right? So as opposed to going and sitting on a hot beach somewhere and there's certainly a time and a place for that, don't get me wrong, but these are sorts of some of the things that are starting to become more of a priority for visitors in the visitor economy, I think. So another question that I'd come up with is, and I don't know if either one of you would be able to speak to this, in the case where a designation has started to move forward and has been initiated, I'm not sure if you'd have experience or background in, if it came off the rails or there was significant community pushback. I've, obviously in my role here, been studying Bonaccord, which we talked quite a bit about this evening, and their policies and bylaws. And I think once you dig into the material and look at the implementation, it's not very nefarious. This isn't some sort of conspiracy that, the government is trying to take away your lighting rights. Are either of you able to comment about that at all? And maybe I'll start with Geoff.
Yeah, no, it's not a vast conspiracy.
No.
Although I've had some fun with conspiracy people because I also volunteered at our observatory in Coronation Park. Well, it's been closed since last March, but and people would come in and talk about the moon landing conspiracy, and they'd say I'm in on it, and I'd say, yeah, NASA sends me a check every month. But anyway, if people have it in their heads that there's some sort of conspiracy going on to whatever, leave us all in the dark, I don't know if there's a way to get through that, because for those type of people, hardcore people, facts don't matter.
Mm-hmm.
So you just have to roll with it, I guess. Yeah.
Fair enough. And it was a pretty open-ended question, so I appreciate you giving that answer. Maybe my next question is to Jordan. Is this something that the county or different community groups could pursue granting opportunities for? I talked a little bit about just now, an interpretive plan, but as far as, installing, telescopes and features of this nature, could you speak to that at all?
Yeah, I certainly think that it would provide another avenue for those community organizations to try to attain grant funding for. Any additional sort of designation, especially if it aligns with other priorities that are happening, from a county perspective or other organizations, if there's an alignment there and a synergy there, that's typically how these grant applications work. They want to see that the dollars that are getting spent have matching dollars or can, tick off more than just one box. So I think that this is an opportunity for those groups to, to look at obtaining grant funding that sort of corresponds to some of the other projects that we have on the go. So it might be something like the Heritage Board or the Ag Society. Lots of different community groups that might benefit from this type of designation with respect to the grant funding. So yes, I don't necessarily have any specific grants that I can pull off the top of my head. But as you know, we've applied and applied successfully for a number of grants over the last couple of years. And they follow a similar format usually when it comes to the criteria that those grant organizations are looking for. So if you can demonstrate that you're partnering with other groups and that the initiative that you're looking for grant funding for is part of a larger system or a larger initiative, certainly I think that benefits those applications. So short answer or long answer together, I guess, yes, I think it would help for that. And certainly that's something that we'd be looking into as well as a municipality.
Thanks for that, Jordan. And I guess I've been doing a lot of asking questions, but I'll remind everybody if you have questions, please, by all means. What kind of a timeline are we working under here? We had a slide up earlier that talked about how, as soon as this fall, there might be, any bylaw amendment come forward. And I think that's probably a little ambitious. I think we're probably looking at closer to maybe winter time when, an actual bylaw amendment could come forward for public comment and perhaps another, open house opportunity. It's tough to invite public comment when we don't really have a product to review and look at yet. Is that a reasonable timeline? Like, I guess my question is for Geoff in that, what does the timing typically look like? It's usually, I guess, a process of over a number of months where there's a number of community meetings or something of that nature.
Yeah, it can take a long time. Now, I approached when you first approached me, I because I was new to the job, I went to our national people and said, do you have something to make the job a little bit easier rather than the big book of regulations that you sent that I sent you? What I was looking for was basically a checklist, going back to my time when I was still working. One of my jobs was quality assurance, and we use checklists all the time for all sorts of things like audits and that. And they say they're working on something. I think something like that would speed things up a bit, but I would say you're probably looking, 6 to 9 months minimum.
Yeah.
Maybe even as long as a year. And also the pandemic doesn't help. I would suggest, if things were normal, we could maybe set up some sort of a outreach event, and it doesn't have to all be astronomy. You've already got the Métis Crossing area there, so I'm sure they have a program. You can bring in naturalists to talk about, nocturnal animals, native star stories, which I find are a lot more interesting than the Greek star stories, where most of the constellations in the northern hemisphere anyway are named after Greek legends. Most of them revolve around a very randy Zeus going around and spreading his seed, as it were, and getting people mad at him. Stuff like that, and of course an astronomy part as well. But there's a lot more to that you can do at a dark sky event than just astronomy.
Yeah.
But like I say, with the pandemic on, we aren't doing any public outreach. We're not anticipating doing any public outreach until at least December of this year.
Mhm.
So,
Well, and it just so happens that between here and December, there's also a municipal election as well. So that's
Of
going to
course.
slow us down a little bit also as kind of the focus shifts to getting that process completed. So yeah, I think that's really fair, and I'm glad that I thought to bring that up. That this is not going to be a one and done. 2 months from now, we're completed, but it's going to actually be a little bit more ongoing than that. And so that's, I think, really good. I'm, actually quite encouraged that council provided direction to kind of take this public early rather than arrive at a decision, do a bunch of work, get to the 11th hour, and then go public and without having had that input, having designed the program wrong, have to go back to the drawing board because there wasn't that community input. So hopefully by this time next year, we'll have long since been able to be meeting in person again. I was actually meeting with somebody last week, just after the RV presentation, and they asked, well, where did you come from? And I said, well, the open house. And they said, well, yeah, where was that? And I was, oh, just at my desk, because I think we're very much getting to that point. So that's my sincere hope. We're coming right up to 6 o'clock, so we've been at this for coming up on an hour now. I'll do kind of a third and final call for any questions in the not the peanut gallery, but from the public. Jordan, did you have any closing thoughts that you wanted to offer before we adjourn for the evening?
No, I think that this has been informative, even just my own personal standpoint. I've heard of the Dark Skies program before, but having more of an expert speak on it rather than just read through some of the materials has been beneficial for my own standpoints, and hopefully for the couple of folks in attendance this evening, and anyone who watches it, the video later. Geoff, we appreciate your comments. I'm sure that those folks will get a lot of value out of it as well. Thanks everyone for the questions, primarily you, Kyle, but again, if anyone is watching this after the fact, the surveys are open until the 23rd of July. And certainly myself and Kyle are both available anytime at the county office. So if you want to give us a call or send us an email, our contact information can be found on the county's website and also in the presentation here. So Kyle, I'll turn it back over to you.
Sorry about that. I just had a visitor. Geoff, did you want to have a second to last word here?
Well, I'll say good luck, and I'm open to any questions. As I say, once the exact location of the preserve has been laid out, I will come out and do some testing of the sky and see just how dark it is. And it's interesting you picked today as a time for this, the 45th anniversary of the first successful landing on Mars by Viking 1, and 52 years after people first landed on the moon. So picked up a good day.
Pretty neat. And I would like to take full credit for that, but this is one of those moments of serendipity. So yeah, I mean, I won't repeat myself too much more ad nauseum. So once again, thank you each for being here. Again, Smoky Lake County, Jordan and myself, we can be reached by phone at 780-656-3730, or I'll give you my boss's email so that you contact him rather than me. Jruegg, JRUEGG @SmokyLakeCounty.ab.ca. No E in Smoky. And yeah, it's an exciting project. I'm really eager to look at the comments that come out of this first stage. I look forward to being in touch with you, Geoff, with more clear direction as to what geographic space we're talking about here to move forward with. And we will meet somewhere along the trail. And with that, I'll stop the recording and wish you all a good evening. Take care.
Thank you.